I'm always on the lookout for a new, fresh co-op game to check out and play. Recently, it's felt like every co-op game has either an unnecessary or tacked on loot system, or some form of forced PvP. Even recently, Ark Raiders, a game that was first announced with an amazing trailer as a co-op PvE game, has shifted to become an extraction-based PvPvE game. So, when Starship Troopers was announced out of nowhere a few weeks ago, it immediately caught my eye. And to clarify, I've never even watched any of them. At first, it looks like a Starship Troopers skin on a Left 4 Dead or more recently Aliens Fireteam Elite, but no. This game actually has some unique ideas and it's straight up fun. Now look, first things first, I've mentioned I'm looking for a fresh co-op game a lot. This is so I can play the odd video game with my dad, who would be the first to admit he's not the greatest at games, but this makes finding games that are accessible to your wider player base more challenging because they either have loot, complex mechanics, or a certain required skill level. That's not to say that the game won't offer any challenge, because it certainly will, but this game is accessible in its difficulty nature. It has that easy pick up and playability. So, the game, as of this time in this video, has launched into early access. So when you first load in, you either dive right in or you go through the game's tutorial, which introduces the building mechanics, which are a huge feature in this game's uniqueness, offering the ability to build your own base to withstand attacks from the gathering hordes, bugs. It isn't the most complex building system either. You place an object down, then you use a tool to construct it. It's a massive part, but I don't think it's overly complex. The more players that use the tool on the same object, the faster it builds. Really quick, really easy tutorial to get you to grips with the mechanic, and then it's time to go find a game. As of right now, there's 3 classes to choose from: Hunter, Bastion, and Operator. I mainly dabbled with Hunter, which was pretty fun. You get a jetpack, what's not to love at the end of the day, and it's basically your traditional assault class. I dabbled a small amount with Bastion, which is your more tanky boys, and then your Operators are your more support-based medic class. All classes have access to the same building, so there's no issues there or anything which you're losing out on. There's your traditional progression-based system, which levels you up. You get new primaries, secondaries, abilities, grenades, simple stuff, but still nice to have. Right now, at early access launch, there's 2 game modes. The first being Assault and Secure, the second being Arc Slam. Until you reach level 5, you can only play Assault and Secure, which is essentially a 3-stage mission to complete objectives before you then extract. Arc Slam carries over these similar objectives with also a few new ones, but it really opens up the sandbox. The first mission type matches tend to range between 20 to 30 minutes. The second, more around 30 to 45, because it's about going out and doing different objectives and gathering the resources till you and your team feel ready for that inevitable horde to attack, so that your base is ready to rock and roll when they attack. After you fill up the arc with enough gas, then that's when the horde come in huge numbers, so you've got to be ready. The base building plays a huge role in the final objective of both modes, and on easy it probably doesn't matter too much, but on normal and above it definitely does. If they breach early, you are screwed, and it is chaos. Then once the final objective is done, you then have to extract until every player is on board the extraction shuttle. Only then do you extract, or after the timer runs out. I did have a small problem with this in the fact that you'd have that one Muppet who just would be standing outside the ship and just shooting enemies while everyone else is waiting to extract. Again, small pet peeve and more to do with who I was playing with, but still annoying nonetheless. This takes me to what I think is actually the coolest part of Starship Troopers, its actual co-op capabilities. Most of the time, PvE experiences now are tied to a 3 to 4 man fire team, allowing for tight communication and working together. This game has 4 squads of 4, meaning it's actually 16 of you at once, and it provides with that a sense of scale. You work mainly within the realm of your 4-man fire team, but there's a huge sense of collaboration, particularly in Arc Slam where there's multiple objectives going on, so therefore squads can diversify objectives. Some people may go and gather the gas, some might go and gather the ore, and others may work on exterminating the bugs so that the threat level comes down. You can actually assign out objectives, and you can see at any moment which team or which players are working on what objective. That's really cool. It feels really unique. Rather than just your basic horde co-op game, there's a big open sandbox here. And I don't have enough people to play with, but I can only imagine the fun of getting a ton of friends and playing together, especially with that number of you. The game itself opens up some amazing moments. Yesterday, for example, we finished that final objective in Arc Slam, and all 16 of us were running and worked together as we shot our way up this steep hill, and we lost 1 or 2 of us at the back. So what happened? Some of us stood at the top and rained down fire and protected the healers, who went back and revived those that we lost. It was a huge spectacle, and it had a huge sense of scale, and it was just an amazing, terrific gaming moment, to be honest with you. I really enjoyed it. The gameplay itself is fun at baseline. The guns feel relatively good. The gore and the way the bugs combust or lose limbs is visually and just satisfying in general. The graphics themselves, they're nothing to write home about, but the art style and the vistas at times can look really incredible. It's important for me to note that there are a few performance issues here, which doesn't surprise me. It's an early access game at the end of the day, but with the number of particle effects, explosions, and most importantly bugs on screen, it plays a huge factor. So yeah, be warned on that. It can, when things get a little crazy, then frame rates, they can tank. Even playing on my 4090, capping it to 60, I did have a few drops, but nothing to really write home about that made it unplayable or anything like that. I haven't really heard of anyone who's unable to run it, and it does seem to scale well between lower end cards and higher end cards. So yeah, I think you're all good. So I keep mentioning, this is an early access game, and that's not something I ever really dabble with because I like to play the full feature complete game on release. So how many games these days can we actually say launch with a full feature complete game? Not many. Anyway, right now you get in one location, which is the planet Balaka, 5 unique enemy types, 3 classes, and 2 game modes. They estimate the game's going to be in early access for around a year, citing that within that time we're going to get one new mode, which is a horde-based system, new weapons, enemy types, progression, community events, which sound cool, and encounters. As of now, there are no plans for a single player campaign, and speaking as of this time of this video, there's no AI or bot support, so you're entirely reliant on a player-based landing and staying, which for a game that relies on a 16-man fire team, that's a big ask and a huge question mark whether they can maintain that until the official launch. They also state that they'll swap from Unreal Engine 4 to 5 over the course of the development, which I have my question marks on that one. We're hearing more games beginning to do that. I don't know how feasible it is, but yeah, it's important to know. The only real early access quote-unquote issue I encountered was every time I exited the game, it reset my loadout. So, which for a game all about killing bugs, is pretty bug-free. Overall, I think this is a good pickup right now. The initial early access price is $20.99 in British pounds, and I think that's a fair buy-in for the amount of content available, the current gameplay experience, and the promise of what's to come. They state the game will change price after its early access period to reflect its content update, which is completely fair. I have no affiliation with Starship Troopers like I mentioned, but I do love a co-op game that has that easy pick up and play nature that even my dad can have a really fun time out of, or anyone that's just had enough of forced loot-based co-op games. So yeah, if you're looking for a fun co-op game to play over a couple of weekends that will bide you over, that's a little different and will scratch that itch, then Starship Troopers Extermination, I think it's the co-op game for you. If you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting that like button. It helps me out massively and I'd really appreciate it. Truth is, if you enjoy talking all things video games, sometimes AAA, sometimes more niche, you're in the right place, so go ahead and subscribe. I've got you covered. Have a terrific day, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Additional field supplies are now available.